Grand Rising. So I was thinking about my pal who had asked me about what I remember from Lyra. And I was telling him because he asked what these entities looked like, what these reptilians looked like. And I'm like, because my memories from Lyra are from my perspective. I've got a bunch of fucked up memories from my fallen soul's point of view, but Lyra, I remember things happening on Lyra only as me. And like I told him, because he's very familiar with Christo's avatar, and I said, from what I can recall, it looked like there was a couple of different kinds of reptilians, and there were some of them that were bigger than the others, and that the best I can say is it looked like a cross between the fucking Goombas in the, I think this is a 1993 Super Mario movie. It looked like a cross between these Goombas and the entities that Christo's avatar coming up with, probably using AI. They were fucking scary as fuck. And this movie, like, exaggerates the heads. Like, the heads were not this small. But, you know, just to implant this shit into our heads when we were children, they came up with these. And they were bigger than this. Like, in stature, they were bigger. I love this movie. And this is how easy it is to look it up for anybody who doesn't know anything about the Lyran Draco Wars. When you type it in, it is literally, yep, it is literally never ending amounts of information. Marduk, big time character, big time bad character. But yeah, everything that they put in the movies, all these fucking creatures. Oh, Lyrans. They're getting their inspiration from real entities. They know what these fucking things look like. And then here is this guy's. This is him and his learning and him and his remembering. His name is King Cassius.
I am so hyped we are here. Welcome to the channel, and let's get right started. As you can tell by the title, I had my first past life memory. Now, this is the thing though, is that I always wanted to have past life memories. I know my soul heritage, so I know briefly where I come from, who my people are, stuff like that. For people that don't know, I am a Lyran, and I always knew I was, but I never really did at the same time. I was always called an old soul. I always had like a kid like personality, and I always had what they called a cat like spirit. And as you can tell, like I always into felines and stuff like that. So when shaman started telling me that I'm a Lyran, I remember the first time I was told I was a Lyran, I literally almost started crying, and I was like, that makes so much sense. And I didn't even know what Lyrans were that much at the time, but I almost started crying, like it hit home for me. I would always read about the
That's pretty much how I felt whenever I got my Starseed reading done. Whenever, or before I got my Starseed origin done, I'm like, I'm not fucking sure. I remember way too much. I'm carrying a lot of other memories, and I'm not fucking sure. On a whim, like I've always felt connected to the Lyrans and always felt pulled to them. The Lyrans and the Syrians and shit. And when I got my Starseed origin done, like, you can watch me in my video fucking crying. Like, I'm just like, I feel so much better. And when she told me Lyra, Rising Aquila, and Cygnus, that was like so monumental for me, because those were pretty much directions and instructions, actually, is the way I took it. But I have Cygnusians in my Oversoul, and I fucking know it. And I couldn't tell, I couldn't see them. And for anybody who thinks that, because I speak out against Oshio and Adine, that I'm just some fallen indigo type 3. Again, they're not fallen, but why don't you check into the Cygnusians? And why don't you go down on my channel or go over and see what Indigo Angel has to say about Cygnusians, because it makes an awful lot more sense to me that the way I act is very much so more fitting to an Indigo 3 who is pulling massive Cygnusian characteristics, because I know I've had lifetimes there.
Lyrans, but I would never truly understand what that meant. So I spent I would say a whole year and a half trying to understand what that means. So, okay, we're going to be going through together on this website, okay? So you guys are going to see a little bit of what I'm talking about. But this is essentially what the Lyrans are, okay? I'm going to talk about my vision in a moment, but first I want to talk about what the Lyrans are, okay? So, the Lyrans are essentially were the first beings to exist in our galaxy. So they are the most ancient race, and they are the ancestors of all the other human beings in our galaxy. So as you can see here, it started off with the splitting off of the two galaxies. Now science supports a lot of this, and much of it just makes sense. This is metaphysical science on understanding source and understanding the galactic center, physical life, stuff like that. So as you can see here, it seems
Just so everybody knows, I'm not concerned about whatever page he's on, pulling this information up, what it says about the Elohim. It's this guy's personal testimony. Because I hope anybody that stumbles across my page is able to see the massive amount of people that I have brought onto my channel, so that you have resources to wherever in the hell you'd like to go find your own answers, and so that you can see how not alone you are. There are so many people on so many different pages, but it's the numbers. There are too many people talking. I don't care who they're affiliated with. Way too many people talking for these poor mental health patients being called crazy, who are star seeds, to keep getting gaslit.
It seems that the co-creators knew what they were doing when they chose Lyra as their canvas to begin the creation of physical life. The co-creators decided to start the great experiment of the descent into physicality in a small constellation that is located right next to a much bigger constellation, Draco, that contained dark service to self reptilian beings who are now known as the Draconians. So essentially, these souls decided that they wanted to descend into physicality, which was a common thing during this time that most beings want to do, is they want to descend into physicality and have a physical experience. The felines were the first ones, okay, which I had a bunch of incarnations as felines, and then from there, the humanoid races were created from the felines, though. So how it starts is, bro, I don't think people understand that evolution is a real thing. Evolution and creation it's both. And I've been saying this, and most people always say this. So the soul creates the physical experience. People don't understand that. So in order for souls to exist in the physical world, they have to create a physical body to basically walk around in as a vehicle. With us, there was a lot to do with the Anunnaki and the Anunnaki having an assistance in this, but don't worry about that yet.
The Lyran Syrian Anunnaki appears to have created the first kinds of humans, and down at this density, the Anunnaki manipulated our genetics and are basically the creators of our body kinds here, is from my understanding. Anything that's being pulled up showing us evolving from an ape, that's not pertinent to this. I think that's a whole bunch of fucking bullshit. But again, it's this guy's story, so whatever.
Yeah, just look at the fact that we had to evolve, okay? That's why you see a lot of extraterrestrials that are like frog humanoids, jellyfish, like mermaid people, stuff like that, because they had to evolve a physical body to house their soul. That is essentially it. Okay, now to get to my vision, let's start with, I have many incarnations.
I'm not trying to put my 2 cents in all the time, but that's just genetic manipulation, in my opinion, thus far, is that the reason these things are so hybridized and why they're so spliced up with the animals and shit is just because they're running like experiments pretty much, and they gene splice everybody and every fucking thing.
As a feline, but I also had incarnations as Nordic. So I had many incarnations as a feline being and as well as a Nordic being. As you can see, all Lyrans are humanoid, okay? But there's a bunch of different ones. So there's some blue ones, there's white Nordics, there's feline, but it all depends on where they come from. So the star that their planet surrounds. But no matter what, they're all from Lyra. They're all in the Lyra constellation. I always knew a little bit about Lyra and the Draconian Wars and stuff like that. But I always looked at it and I was like, okay, that's my heritage, but like, it's not really like hitting. Like, hopefully one day I can remember this joint, right? And then finally understand who I am more. For those who don't know me that well, I have seizures that cannot be explained by doctors and basically science, right? All they know is that I have seizures every month, every single month, and they aren't neurological, so they don't damage my brain, but I have them. But the crazy part is, every time I would have a seizure, I would have like a download of information. Like, I just knew more about myself in the world. I felt like a more evolved version of myself. That's the best way to explain it. And so then recently I had a seizure a week after the other one, which is not normal. But before I had the seizure, I kept getting in my mind, you're ready for a download. You're ready for a download. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? The only explanation for my seizures were metaphysical explanations. And it's that I get downloads of information to help me on this planet, to help others ascend. So I get information downloaded in me every month because they couldn't give it to me right away, or else it would kill me. So they give it to me every month, and they give me information that I'm ready to receive at the moment. It's like it was talking to me. It was like, you're ready for a download, you're ready for a download. And I was like, what? I'm ready? Like, it's too early, but I felt it coming, about, it warns me. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm ready. So I had the seizure, woke up, and then a few days later, I felt different. So I already felt different, but I was like, okay, this download is way bigger than usual. So I already knew that, but I didn't know what information was coming yet. So I knew I had to meditate. But this meditation was so different. I had a vision, but it was a vision that was so powerful within me that I knew it wasn't normal. It was different and I couldn't explain it. This is the vision I saw. So just imagine this is in first person. So the vision is I'm on a planet and there's these like spaceships coming down from the sky, flying down from the sky and coming to massacre everyone. And everybody's running and scared. I'm also getting visions of literally these reptilian beings with crocodile heads and reptilian humanoid bodies eating people. But they aren't just eating people, they're literally eating them alive and eating them in front of their families. Like, they would eat these people in front of their family members, and I was seeing it in my eyes, and I was scared. I was having a panic attack because I was like, oh my god. Like, I was panicking. I could just feel the emotion, like fear, like deep fear and shame and like grief. I felt deep pain, hurt, grief, and fear all at once, and I was panicking because I was seeing these reptilians eating people and raping them, eating them, taking them as slaves. So I had this vision, but I didn't fully understand what it was. I felt it as a memory, like I experienced it before. So I'm going to get into it and tell you guys exactly the vision I saw. We're getting into the Lyran and Draconian Wars. It is still labeled the most catastrophic event to ever happen in our galaxy. And I read about this, but I wasn't really like, I was like, okay, this is my heritage, but I don't really like resonate with it in a way that's like I'm emotional about it. I'll read you guys the story and then I'll read you guys the text messages that I was messaging my mentor about what I saw, because I was still confused. I knew what I was seeing. I was seeing the Draconian Wars, but I didn't understand fully. I was like, was I seeing a memory or what, right? So I was confused about that. The Lyrans had a very peaceful world, okay? All they knew was light, okay? All they knew was peace and light. Literally, it was the most peaceful worlds. They were in unison with their planets and with consciousness. They lived like this for millions of years. Okay, alone. They thought they were alone in the galaxy. Like it says here, there was light conflicts, but they were always clear and resolved. They adapted. Literally, they lived in harmony and respective to the planets. They were agricultural. Some had other aspects that they were into. They lived from 300 to 425 years average, and 3 times that now, right? They were not service to self. Okay, their race beat it with one heart. They shared and moved together. What they didn't know was that beside them, okay, in the Draco star system, were beings that were kicked out of another universe because of the catastrophes that they brought to that one. From her understanding in the Akashic records, the draconian beings originally came here to this universe from another universe, okay? After the avian and feline races were already developing here billions of years ago. So the Lyrans were already there. They were already in the Lyran star system, but the draconians were kicked out of their other universe and landed in this one. When these two civilizations found each other, it ended up in the Lyran Draconian Wars. Now, like she says, this is a difficult section to write because of her own soul memories, and including mine. Reading this after the memories, I was getting flashes of what actually happened. They had to find new homes because their planets were destroyed. Most of them were destroyed, and they had to incarnate in other places in the universe or in the galaxy and start out fresh. All the other civilizations in the galaxy are descendants of the Lyrans. So the Lyrans are the ancestors of all the other humanoid beings in our galaxy. Remember that. So this is the start to everything. I wasn't quite sure the visions. I had to see if they were legit or not. So I started doing a lot more research because I didn't know whether they were legit. So the Draconians, they created a massive destruction of such large magnitude in that other universe that they were removed from that universe by the beings that they were in conflict with and deposited in this universe in the constellation of Draco. As we keep going, they have a hierarchy system. We're not going to get into that. That's for another video we get to the Draconians. The human races were evolving in Lyra within many solar systems in the star system. So the reason why the co-creators chose Lyra was because of the frequencies and stuff like that. And so the Lyrans started to develop space travel. One day, approximately 572 million years ago, in this current timeline, several huge crafts appeared in the sky in the Lyran star system. A large ship came out of one, the huge crafts, and approached the Lyran planets. And reptilians from Alpha Draconis, from a constellation Draco, disembarked. Apparently, in the beginning, the Alpha Draconians and the Lyrans were afraid and suspicious of each other. This is what I saw in my vision. The spaceships appearing in the sky. So we have two races who previously thought they were alone in the galaxy and came.
I'm going to pause and end this if anybody would like to go check out King Cassius and see what he has to say about the rest of it. Because, guy's on his way over, actually. And this shit's just super sad for me to have to hear and sift through on my own. And, again, in a world where everybody has their own opinions and, everybody has to go through rememberings and finding bigger for stories and all of this shit. I'm not discrediting anybody, for where they're at in their process, and this guy seems to have interesting input if anybody would like to check him out. But I swear, when you have to wake up to memories of anything this ancient It's really shitty. And, there's all kinds of other people talking about it for if you ever do. Because, it's not fun. It is not fun. And that poor dude with his seizures and his downloading and stuff, like, yeah, it sounds like he has a heavily active crown chakra, and this shit does, like, this shit literally fucking damages brains. Toodles. Here's a little piece from Sarah Elkhaldy.
Naturally, I became drawn to fringe topics and fringe material, such as channeled information. And this is where I was having the most remembrance activated at this time, the most triggers and the most remembering as to why I incarnated here in the first place. Everything finally made sense within the fringe context. And so in this phase of my life, as I'm having deep awakenings happen at a soul level, I also started getting interacted with by both positive and negative beings. And once you get interacted with positive beings, it's just a natural byproduct that you will also, with whatever is unintegrated or unhealed within your being, attract negative beings, because it's like the signal's out. If you're learning, I was learning a lot from Arcturians. They were teaching me a lot of stuff. If you watch my video, how to jump timelines, that information is like almost all from Arcturians I learned personally from my own direct experience, them showing me how reality works. You still learn things even from negative experiences and negative contact. They're just not things you would prefer to learn, things like vigilance in protecting oneself against these forces, but also about the deeper nature into reality as to why these forces exist in the first place, what the motive is, what the intent is, what's the bigger picture, what larger context all of this is applying to. You have a lot of incentive, you have a lot of motive at that point to learn how to transmute these experiences so that you're not interacted with in that way. And that was, me going through the gauntlet, if you will. And those experiences are what catalyzed me into learning about the darkest parts of reality, in order so that I had the ability to not only transmute this for myself, but also know about these elements. Because once again, all of these experiences I was having was adding very important information by expanding my bandwidth. If there's one thing that I really want to drive home, it's that the expansion of our bandwidth is the most important and crucial aspect to being able to receive information. Because if you have a limited bandwidth, you're only coming from one belief system or one context and paradigm. And so whatever information you're receiving from yourself, from your higher aspects, from your team, whatever you want to call them, are going to be filtered through that paradigm. And then when you add to that a being who's not doing any awareness, self-awareness or shadow work, whatever type of emotional processing that's going on, then you have an even more distorted ability to receive information. During this same time, I was also heavily drawn to the topic of soul retrieval, since soul retrieval is how a person heals themselves, integrates their being, and evolves. So I connected with a shaman who not only was I receiving energy work from and soul retrieval work from, but also who was mentoring me in shamanic healing, as well as the quantum field and quantum healing. So both of these two tools from these seemingly different worlds, once again, were in complete harmony in the backdrop of my life experience. And me and my shaman are still good friends to this day. So all of my life experiences were continuously broadening my bandwidth, meaning my ability to align with truth objectively as one can access in their capacity. And with this, it only continued to expand more and more, just in different ways as I incurred more life experience. So there was at one point where I was heavily into false light teachings. Well, one person can say that that is wrong or, a negative experience to have, and they would be right. But also, you have to be able to know about something intimately. You have to be able to directly experience something in order to gain discernment. Discernment is not something that we can just learn by reading an article or even learn by hearing about it, even though things can aid us. There's definitely assistance and tools that can help us build discernment. We don't always need to have some sort of direct experience. We can also, hear from other people who have had certain experiences. We can also learn from people who are of an exalted, status and expertise on a topic. But the direct experience is how you build discernment. That's the end of the story. A being will simply not incur discernment if they do not go through an experience. And so as I was heavily immersed in fringe material, naturally, I gravitated all the way over to complete false light teachings. And I learned about both ends of that spectrum, both ends of that polarity. So all of this learning and experiencing and knowing was a really good gig up until 2018, when I had incurred a nervous system injury that I'm still coming to terms with. The positive aspects of this nervous system injury that I had occurred is an ongoing upgrade to my entire etheric template and my body-mind-spirit complex. I had attracted the way that this upgrade manifested through a physical body cleanse, no less, because I was sitting on information and I would not share it, and because I was playing small. So the way that this upgrade showed up was in a more severe tone, because that is what propelled me or inspired me into the direction that my original intent for this lifetime had planned. The positive aspects to this ongoing upgrade is that I'm able to synthesize information at a very optimal rate. I'm able to draw from past teachings, from past points in my life, and act as a bridge for concepts and for information that now I'm just receiving from my Oversoul. So to answer your question, where do I get my information from? I get my information from my Oversoul. Although I am Pleiadian and Arcturian and Andromedan and so forth, I receive information from my Oversoul, and my Oversoul is a group consciousness. So all of that's already entailed in my Oversoul. So from there, I use my own vocabulary, my own life experience, my own analogies, my own unique understanding and direct experience from my personal life path and all of the different teachings and knowledge that I have incurred from these.
I literally love her. Like, according to Guardian Alliance teachings, if you have anything to do with Andromeda or Andromedans, you're channeling and you're in contact with fallen beings right away. If you're channeling, you're gonna fuck up your whatever double diamond sun templating and shit. Like, literally, there is so much information in the Guardian teachings, but there is also so much fucking negativity towards all kinds of people and all kinds of beings who are not all fallen. It is absolutely wild. And I'm in this one group, and they're talking about, with a video of Ashiana Dean talking about how it's not okay to channel. And I'm like, so why is it okay that she channeled all of this fucking material then? Like, why is it okay for her to channel and nobody else. And somebody's like, well, she trained with the Ioni for 15 years in order to be able to, be at a certain place at a certain time to, get this information through. She was downloading, she wasn't channeling. So I bring up a comment that RK Seeker of Truth had said, and I'm like, hey, so what about the time that she was channeling Azara in one of her workshops and started talking with a fucking British accent and her speech slowed down and she started looking all fucking whacked out? What's up with that? Like, that looks like channeling, because these people are like, downloading is different from being stepped into. When you're channeling, something is stepping into your body, and that's not okay. And I'm like, well, she started talking with a British accent. She looks pretty overtaken. And somebody's like, yeah, well, Azara's part of her Oversoul, and we don't agree with her. We don't agree with that, because they had seen it. And they're like, we don't really agree with that, but, Azara was part of her Oversoul, so it wasn't a big deal. And I'm like, okay, well, what about Seth? Was Seth part of her fucking Oversoul too? Seth almost, got her killed channeling him with her Ouija board extravaganzas. Like, it's like nonstop fucking, literally, do as I say, not as I do. And I wonder what Sarah Elkhaldy, and I wonder what all of these other people would have to say about Ashianadine, because I'm sure all of these other people would be like, that bitch is a fucking psycho. But how she's talking about her Oversoul group, I don't think a lot of people know about the Cygnusians. I really, really don't. And the Cygnusians are absolutely part of my Oversoul group. And when I heard about Cygnus and the Cygnusians, I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense, because nothing is a coincidence. In my whole life, everybody in my whole family, they nicknamed me Kelly Bird. And it was the weirdest shit. And I'm like, why in the fuck does everybody call me Kelly Bird? And it really, like, hearing the word Cygnus and Cygnusians was so monumental. And they are very protective. And again, go down on my page. I have a piece of what Indigo Angel has to say about the Cygnusians, and she hits the nail on the head, because she can remote view and she knows a lot of fucking shit. She really does. And yeah, I don't know. I think that I don't know who I resonate more with, Lyrans or Cygnusians. I really don't. That shit was so paramount. Like how she'd said, I feel like we had a divine alignment, that I'm responding to you because I usually don't respond to people on Facebook, and like I feel really called to respond to you because I was so desperately at the time. I'm like, it was like a fucking alarm went off. Like, I have to find my starseed origin. Like, I have to find some piece of information fucking soon. And it's really burning me up. Like, there's something that I'm missing. And when she gave me my starseed origin, and I found out about Aquila and Cygnus, I'm like, holy fuck. That makes so much sense. So much sense. Toodles.